The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and specifically fearing other people's opinions. That's what we're talking about in today's video. I'm Jackie Elmer. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, check out my playlist on this, and grab my guide at lowertoxiclife.com. Now, in my previous videos, I gave you an introduction to the Let Them Theory, which I actually learned about a couple of years ago through Mel Robbins' podcast when she talked about it. And since that time, she's written the book and developed a whole program around it. But I think it is so perfect. And I know for me, probably close to a decade ago, probably, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, I came up with a mantra which I use regularly, and that is, my children are not responsible for my happiness. Now, I have adult children, and so if you do as well, you probably know what I mean. There's a time in their life when you can control everything about them, and then ultimately they spread their wings, they fly, and you have to remind yourself they're off on their own path, their own journey, just like you and I were when we were their age. We didn't want our parents hovering over us and advising us on every single decision that we made or every choice that we made in our lives. And I remind myself of that. I get to choose my happiness level, my joy level, my contentment, my calm and peace every single day. And I have to let them go and let them be free to do all of that. So in this particular section, we are going to talk about fearing other people's opinions. And I love this part of the book because I think this is something that so many of us struggle with. Now, I always like to say, especially women. And again, not trying to leave the men out of this, but as women, we are largely or have been conditioned to be people pleasers, to kind of take the back seat. Take the smallest piece of chicken when you're feeding a crowd. Wait till the end to serve yourself. Take care of everybody else's needs before your own. And a lot of that started with just being general caretakers for children. I mean, it's baked into our DNA. And I'm not one to be here to try to fight that. I absolutely love being a mom. I loved every part of that. I wanted to be a stay-home mom. And I was, but I was also a work-at-home mom. I launched a business when my son was about 15 months old and never stopped. But I had the beauty of both sides of it, where I could be the room mom, be the tennis driver, be the hockey mom, do all of those things, volunteer in the classroom. And because I owned my own business and worked at home, I totally controlled my calendar, which for me was the best of it. But that's part of how and why women are conditioned. So I wrote down a couple of notes here that I wanted to make sure that I got from this. And the very first part of it, let them think bad thoughts about you. People are going to judge you. People have judged you since you were born on this earth. Your parents most likely judged you as the most amazing baby ever born into the universe. Someone else sitting on the airplane as you were a baby and you were screaming your lungs out probably judged you as the most annoying baby ever, right? So we've been judged and will be judged since the dawn of our existence. And that's going to continue. But that's okay. When you can just realize that and allow that to happen, you again, control your next move. You control your reactions. You control then your peace, your joy, your calm. So remember that people are going to judge you no matter what you do. When you're at your highest high, people are going to judge you. When you're at your lowest low, people are going to judge you. Just be careful that you are not your worst critic. Just be careful that you are not your worst critic. Write that down. Now, here's the second part of that, and what I believe is the most important. People are going to judge you no matter what, but not nearly as much as you make up in your mind that they're judging you. And working with clients for years as a social media and business coach, I know that I ran into this repeatedly with my clients, and most specifically my female clients. They would be afraid to put a selfie out there or shoot a video or in any way put themselves out there as the face and the brand in their business. And when I would question them and ask them why, it was like, well, we fear other people's opinions. We fear their judgment. We fear social shame. First time I ever heard that expression, it was like huge. Social shame. What is that exactly? That's the fear that everybody's going to laugh at us. Now, it used to be that would happen on the playground or near the lockers at school or whatever it was. And today, so much of that happens on social media, which is killing our younger children growing up. It's really affecting an entire generation in a horrible way, in my opinion. And all we can do is work to lift them up and remind them social media is fake. It's not real. There are things about it that are real, but overall, it's just an illusion. So much of it is. So when I would work with these clients, I would ultimately ask them, when you fear other people's opinions, when you fear people's judgment, who is it that comes to mind? Who is it? And most of the time, when people, actually, I think all of the time, when people would stop and reflect for a moment, they would usually give me anywhere from 1 to 3 names. 1 to 3 names. A family member, business part, whatever it was, but it was usually 1 to 3 names. It was that person that came to mind for them, whose judgment, whose harsh words. Maybe it was a father figure, someone who was a very stern parent or something like that. We could almost always come up with exactly who it was that they feared was going to judge them or feared that person's opinion. So I'm going to ask you, who is it that comes to mind for you? If you really fear other people's opinions and judgment, is it everyone, or is it 1 or 2, or just a very small handful? The reality of it is we have zero control over other people's judgment and other people's opinions. And yet, knowing that, we still allow it to hold us back. So I ask you, how much is your fear of other people's judgment and opinions holding you back right now? Thinking back over the last year, how much has it held you back? Thinking back over the last 5 years or even decades, how much has your resistance to other people's judgment and opinions held you back from doing the things that you truly love, that you truly desire, that might even be your mission and purpose here on earth? How much have you allowed that to derail you and stop you? And are you willing to continue to allow that to happen? Or are you ready to simply release it? Now, the first thing that I always remind myself is I want to make good decisions. I want to make good decisions. I kind of have a litmus test that I run things by. Number 1, I don't ever want to embarrass myself. Number 2, I don't ever want to embarrass my close family members. I don't want my children to be any more embarrassed of me than they already are just because I'm their parent. I don't want my parents to be embarrassed of me, my spouse or whatever. So I really do try to live my life as best I can by making good decisions. And of course, starting with myself as that number 1 judgment piece. I don't want to embarrass myself. So I do the best that I can to make those choices and decisions to put myself out there, whether it be social media or whatever it is, in a way that for the most part, I'm going to look back on that and say, yeah, I'm good with that. Maybe I could have shot that video better. Maybe I could have, done my makeup better, whatever it is. We can always beat up on ourselves for how we could be or do better. But the reality of it is your B work today is better than your A work 3 weeks from now. So put yourself out there, do those things that bring you joy, bring you passion, and stop holding on to your fear of other people's opinions. Kind of back to that little phrase that I brought up, which is people are going to judge you, but not as much as we think that they are. And what I'm going to say about that is just even in your own experience, I want you to think back. And most of us can bring this to mind pretty quickly. I want you to think back on that small group of people who you may judge the hardest. Okay, who are those people that you're most critical of? That might even be a mirror reflection of some negative qualities within you. All of us have that. Most often they say that the people that you resist the most, it's almost like a mirror. There's something within them that's a reflection to you of some character traits that you might not be super proud about or want to shift and change. So I ask you, who are those people that you judge the most? And how much time do you really spend thinking about them, dwelling on them, evaluating their decisions, their actions, or any of that? And my guess is it's probably hopefully a small percentage of any given time and space, a small percentage of any given day, a small percentage of the time that you're doom scrolling on social media or whatever it is. So I want you to think about how much time you invest in having an opinion about others and remind yourself that hopefully it's not a whole lot. And the reality of it is people are not thinking about us and judging us as much as we make up in our minds that they are. So if I could give you one takeaway from this, it is remind yourself people are going to judge you no matter what. Living your life in the pursuit of pleasing others is ultimately going to create you as the strongest critic of yourself. You're here on this earth to fulfill a mission. And a big part of that is to find peace and joy. And yes, might I even say happiness as best we can, right? And so when you set out to spend way too much time pleasing others, you miss that opportunity to first and foremost please yourself and do those things that inspire you, which ultimately, in my opinion, have that trickle down effect of positively inspiring other people. So if I could leave you with one takeaway today from the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, that is to remind yourself, people are going to judge you. You don't control that. But what you don't want to do more than anything is spend your life being a people pleaser. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Drop me a comment below. Do you struggle with people pleasing? Do you have any tools or advice to the rest of us to overcome that? And make sure you grab my guide at lowertoxiclife.com. There's a playlist here on the Let Them Theory. I invite you to watch the rest of those videos.